The next topic that we are going to now talk about is very entrepreneurial. From the secular world, entrepreneurial. From the devotional world, very Brahminical. Very, very Brahminical. It's a notion which can transform the world. It can transform the world because it can transform education as it exists within ISKCON. And for this, I like to ask Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu to come and share his from various devotees and senior Vaishnavas in this movement and share with us what can be done. And the topic is being run by individual Brahmanas within ISKCON. On that note, I hand over the symposium to Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much, Tapan Mishra Prabhu and Ministry of Education. I have taken some notes on what I would like to present. So let me just keep showing it, and I will also explain at the same time. In traditional Brahminical culture, education is taught by individual Brahmanas. Prabhupada refers to it as a Catuspathis. A Catuspathis is actually a tutorial. It's run by a Dharmic Brahman. He teaches the scriptures for free. And it's not that because it is for free, it is cheap. He actually accepts students who trust him and whom he trusts. Prabhupada has spoken about this, so let me just take up some quotes. I'm not going to read through all of everything that I have under my notes, though I'll share the link, and whoever is interested can go through. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his own Catuspathis. Prabhupada mentions it in a number of places. And he says the Brahmins, they have 6 activities: Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dan, Pratigraha. They study, they teach, they worship, they teach others how to worship, they give in charity, and they also receive charity. So regarding Pathan, he must teach Vedic knowledge. Prabhupada, he says in a lecture in Surat, in Gujarat, in India, 1970, in every village, the Brahmin had a Catuspathis. He would sit down in his cottage and he would teach Vedic literature. That is Brahminical quality. Not that I'm very much learned. I will not distribute it. That is called Jnana Kala, envious. Even though he has knowledge, he's not distributing it. Prabhupada also notes that so anywhere a Brahmin can sit down and the village boys, they would come. He doesn't charge. And he accepts gifts that are given. It is also called a toll Catuspathis. So the idea is that Brahmins who voluntarily accept vows of poverty, they teach. Prabhupada gives this example. There was a Brahmin teacher in Krishnanagar. Krishnanagar is a town near Mayapur. So the Zamindar, Raja Krishna Chandra, he went, Brahman, what can I help you? No, I don't want your help. The house is not very good. No, I'm quite satisfied. So in that way, you can see that these Brahmins who were conducting Catuspathis, who were teaching through the tutorial system, they are full-fledged Brahmanas, not just in the sense that they have just a second initiation, but they actually have accepted the vows of a Brahman. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, previously, his name was Bimala Prasad. He received the title Siddhanta Saraswati because he was a scholar on Jyotisha Shastra, texts on astronomy. So you find that it is noted at the Bhakti Bhavan, this is in Calcutta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home. In 1897, he established a Catuspathis called Saraswati Catuspathis, where many learned persons from Calcutta attended his lectures and discourses on astronomy. A Catuspathis needs to have certain features. It has to be run by a qualified person, that is a Brahmin, but not like this person who's just born in a Brahmin family or just with some accreditation of being a Brahmin. He needs to have the features of a Brahmin. Prabhupada, from the scriptures, we know that there are lists of qualities of a Brahmin: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness. Another list we get here: control of the mind, control of the senses, austerity and penance, cleanliness, satisfaction, forgiveness, simplicity, knowledge, mercy, truthfulness, complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Achyutatmatvam. There is another one. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction, tolerance, simple, straightforwardness, devotion to me, mercy, and truthfulness. Notice that truthfulness keeps coming. And then there are some features or standard features of the mode of goodness also. Mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself. Brahmins are expected to accept a vow of voluntary poverty. Actually, this was first told to me by my spiritual master, Srila Jayaprakash Maharaj, that those who are teachers of scripture and who wish to function according to the actual scriptural standards, they should not try to economically develop beyond what is barely required. That is also noted in Bhagavatam. In a purport, there is an incident when Lord Ramachandra, he donated his kingdom to the Brahmins. And this was during Lord Ram's reign. And these Brahmanas, they gave back the property, the land that the Lord had given. And Prabhupada points out, the Brahmanical character offers no scope for possessing land and ruling citizens. These are the duties of a Kshatriya. Therefore, although the Brahmins did not refuse Lord Ramachandra's gift, after accepting it, they returned it to the king. The king is Lord Ram. Apart from that, they were also expected to give charity. We know that there are 6 occupational duties, but out of these 6, 3 are compulsory: studying the Vedas, worshipping the deity, and giving charity. Note that, giving charity. The Brahmin himself is already meant to be as poverty-stricken as possible. Not impossible, obviously. But he's also expected to give in charity what he doesn't require. Again, 3 are compulsory: worship of the deity, study of the Vedas, and giving of charity. And there's also, of course, restrictions about who can accept charity. Another feature, meant to be fearlessly truthful, non-duplicitous, non-diplomatic. Arjava. Must be very simple, no duplicity. You should apply the knowledge in practical life. He will speak truth even before an enemy. Nobody speaks truth before an enemy because he wants to hide something, but Brahman's business is to become truthful even before an enemy. Absolute faith in Vedic scriptures. This is very interesting. Absolute faith in Vedic scriptures. It's called astikya, one of the features of a Brahman, that a Brahmana must believe in the Vedic injunctions without misinterpretation. Absolute faith. Absolute faith. Another point that Prabhupada makes. These are also points that my teacher, Sri Gopi Pranandan Prabhu, at various times in my life, he expressed. And he told me he should have a celebrate relationship with his students. For instance, here is Prabhupada talks about this. Arjuna did not marry one of his former students because I have treated her as my student. Full-fledged adherence to the preliminary injunctions on how to make progress in Krishna consciousness. These are actually common to all systems of transcendence. Actually, he has to be a sober person. He has to control the urge to speak, urge of the mind, urge of anger, the urges of tongue, belly, genitals, and so on. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnavas, these features will come. So when that happens, then such brahmanas, if they teach, the community will be greatly benefited. The entire arrangement of a Catuspathis was anti-commercial. The classes were conducted without payment. And the teacher-student relationship was not based on money or an equivalent of money, but rather it's built on mutual trust. Just because it is free doesn't mean that anybody would be accepted as a student. Rather, only those whom the teacher knows, understands, and trusts. Now, that he may do it directly or through some representative, he would only accept such a person as a student. One point that Sri Gopi Pranam stressed was, if the teacher was dissatisfied with the student, it was moral and ethical for him to stop teaching that student. He's not morally obligated. He's not commercially obligated. Another important feature of a toll or a Catuspathis is that it is not an institution. In other words, it is not, you don't have posts and with different people filling up those posts. As a single teacher, he may engage some of his students as his assistant teachers. He may call some guests, some friends whom he trusts to teach, possible. But the Catuspathis has no existence without that teacher. When he stops teaching, the Catuspathis stops. When he dies, the Catuspathis dies. And of course, his students, when they become mature, they would be expected to set up their own stalls. Lord Chaitanya had his Catuspathis, his stall, when he was a young boy, actually. Now, why is all this relevant for ISKCON today? First of all, it is well suited to today's ISKCON because most of ISKCON today is congregational by nature. That means most of the devotees, very serious devotees, really dedicated to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Parampara Acharyas and Prabhupada, they're financially independent of ISKCON. They don't reside in an ISKCON property. So naturally, when we carry out the injunctions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we carry out the injunctions of Rupa Goswami, at one point, we shouldn't be surprised to see potential Brahmins developing out of the congregation. They can always choose to set up their own Catuspathis and teach the scriptures for free. Another reason why it is well suited is because actually scriptural education is beyond just teaching some theory. There are several aspects based on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Dashamud framework. I have extracted 4 elements of scriptural education. Shraddha, referring to faith or conviction or belief. Pragya, knowledge, understanding. Spriha, aspirations, desires, hankerings. Kriya, activities. In other words, when we approach a representative of the Guru Parampara, it is not that we are just picking up some knowledge and understanding from the Parampara. Rather, all these 4 aspects are being conveyed through the Parampara. from one member to another, to another, to another. His faith and conviction and belief, that comes to us. His knowledge, understanding comes to us. His desires will come to us. And the activities that he's doing, he trains us in those activities. So just as when we go to learn from someone, we pick up knowledge and understanding in a Catuspathis, where you get to be with the teacher, not necessarily whole day and night and so on, but you have extended association. So all these four aspects you can get it, and this is carried forward throughout life, and that also with gratitude. It is not because he's teaching for free. He's not actually obligated to do it. For Navadvip Mandal, Catuspathis can actually make Navadvip into a seat of scriptural education once again. It was. Navadvip, Mithila, Varanasi, these three were educational towns. And there were thousands of Catuspathis. At Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, there were Lakshakoti Adhyapak, there were millions of teachers, what to speak of students. So a place like Navadvip Mandal can be made into a seat of education if more and more ISKCON Brahmanas take up the prescriptions, prohibitions, and allowances of traditional Brahmanical life that Prabhupada has written about, and teach. I personally wish that in Navadvip Mandal, in 100 years from now, there would be 100 ISKCON Brahmins at any point in time teaching. My own Guru Maharaj, Jayapudak Maharaj, once told me that I wish that some devotees would settle in some other dweep. Mayapur is an antardweep, but in other dweeps, he talked to me about Vidyanagar. There's one holy spot in Navadvip Mandal called Vidyanagar. It's on the other side of Nanda. There's another place called Arkattila. These are all very, very holy spots. And he said that it would be nice if some Brahmanical devotee would teach in these places. Another reason why Catuspathis are significant, they can be a complement to, they can make up for or complement other types of education, institutional types of education that we already have. For those who want to study scriptures in great detail, those who want to study, let's say, some previous acharyas' books in great detail and understand it thoroughly, properly, Catuspathis would be very useful. For certain types of training, it would be useful because of small teacher-student ratio. It can strengthen devotee communities because in Vedic civilization, food, education, healthcare, and justice are meant to be given for free. And if a teacher is strictly adhering to Brahmanical vows, in addition to following dharma over the decades, this is a point that Sri Gopi Pranam actually made, that local community will recognize this contribution and they'll be benefited. And of course, for those who are enthusiastic about Varnashrama Dharma, this is how actually Brahmins were teaching in Varnashrama Dharma. For whatever bit that has come out useful here, I will express my gratitude to my spiritual master, Srila Jayapatak Maharaj, who helped me understand about how the congregation should develop and about Brahmanical life. There's a lot I learned from Sri Gopi Pranam. Okay, I will stop at that.
Thank you. Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu, many questions have risen from your very thought-provoking presentation. So the first question. It may be argued that ISKCON devotees are not mature enough for such a system and institutional standardization is necessary. What is your response? What is your view of ISKCON educational institutes? I'll just stop there. What is your...
No, it is not that ISKCON devotees are not mature. I'm not talking about a broad base. I'm not saying everybody should attempt something like this. but it is our duty to train devotees to come forward. We will always find devotees who have a Brahmanical temperament. They should be encouraged. They should become mature. Gopi Prananda Prabhu once told me there's a distinction between a raw Brahmana and a refined Brahmana, and it is the duty of a Brahmana teacher to refine the raw Brahman and make him into a proper, capable teacher. And I remember personally, he gave me many instructions, and he said that there are many things which you should accept and follow. And don't think that just because it is written by Prabhupada in a book, you will not implement it. So we'll always come across devotees who think like that I must follow it seriously. I must become a serious sadhaka. I must benefit others. These are obviously potential brahmanas. Let's encourage them. Let them come forward. Take it up. This is a way to spread it. Yeah. Institutional education has its place. Definitely it has its place. I will not deny that. A large number of devotees, this actually my Guru Maharaj, Srila Jayapataka Maharaj mentioned, Gopi Prananda also mentioned once. They would not study even Prabhupada's books if you don't set up a course and give them a certificate. So they should be encouraged. But you see, the potential Brahmins that I'm talking of, they are not like that. They are very, very serious and they study. And we all have seen devotees like that. So this Catuspathis system would be a very good system to train those people and make them come up. Let them come up. Like a child needs to learn how to walk on his own. Needs to be helped. Not that all the time you can help. Let them come up. Let them come up. It is...
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, there are 6 more questions. So if I know we will want to know the details, but you can then decide how much details you want to give. The next question is, what is your view of ISKCON educational institutes that charge significant fees for, in some ways, compulsory ISKCON educational programs?
Like I mentioned, that there are those who will only study when they get some social privileges inside the movement. If we only had Catuspathis, these people wouldn't be studying scripture at all. Unfortunately, they won't even be reading Prabhupada's books. A number of devotees have told me. Now, I have taught in institutions inside ISKCON. And a number of them, they actually have told me that we need to be given a, when you're asleep, sometimes they throw they throw cold water on you. So they said that this Bhakti Shastri course and all that, this has woken me up. So it has its role. I will not deny that. But Catuspathis are extremely significant. And I would just wish that the Ministry of Education works out some system to verify. We don't want fake Brahmins, but at the same time, we need some mechanism by which Catuspathis are encouraged and let things happen. I certainly see a future in this, and it can be a useful complement to institutionalized education for those others.
Thank you.
Let me look at another question.
Next question. Does such a Brahmana need an authorization from any ISKCON authority? Are there any functioning Catuspathis at the moment?
The first thing I would like to point out is a Catuspathi is not an institution. It is just that person. It is just that one person teaching. Just like we do home programs. We don't always get a rubber stamp from some ISKCON center to take permission. Can you do a home program? We do book distribution. This is just helping people to give their life to Krishna consciousness. Some of them may want to give a name to it. I don't deny that, but I will consider those names to be like pen names. People write poetry and they use a name as a poet. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur used the pen name Hari Vallabh Das, but it's actually Vishwanath Chakravarti himself. So you may give XYZ Catuspathi as your title. It means nothing as long as it is just you. So I do know a friend of mine, Padmukhanimaya Prabhu, he's running. And there are a number of devotees who study and teach Shastra on their own, which is nice. That is a Chatuspati already. A Chatuspati is not an institution which requires some kind of accreditation and so on. It's just something that you do. You need to develop a different paradigm of thinking. It's not a
paradigm. Very different paradigm indeed. Next question. How is Chatuspati related to a Gurukula? Also, did Chatuspati focus only on Shastric study, or should it cover vocational training as well?
Chatuspati, see, in a Gurukula, the students reside at the home of the Guru. It may happen. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, studied, and came back home every day. So we can see there are different types of education models. There is also the Gurukula model where you actually reside, but there is another type. You just go and you learn and you come back.
Okay. Next question. What do we do if a person who's very unqualified is doing this?
Make a big noise and say that, again, this is not some, how can you prevent someone from talking to someone else? How can you prevent someone who trusts you, who knows you, and, he just knows you, he trusts you. Like Sri Gopi Prandan Prabhu, for instance. Okay. I learned once he was in Bangalore, and I requested him. There's a certain portion of Tattva Sandarbha that he was translating, and I wanted him. I didn't know, and then he taught me. Now, this is not some kind of structured. It was systematic, but it is not officially. There's no org chart about it. He knew me. He stayed in my house, and I hosted him. I gave him prasadam, and I considered it extremely great blessing that his lotus feet touched my home. That's it. Now, are we going to start making rules about that? How can you make rules about trust? And if somebody is unqualified, first of all, then the student should be. Maybe you can try talking. I don't know. It is personal. It is personal.
Thank you, Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu. There are still 5 more questions that devotees want to address, but we have come to a natural conclusion of the time. I want to request you, Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu, could you please oblige the participants by sharing your email address, and because they're very keen to know more. The participants can, of course, write to us, the ministry, and we can relay your questions to Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu and get it back to you. In case if Prabhu doesn't want to, publicly share.
That's all right. Anyway, people just call me and just ask me questions all of a sudden. It happens. I'm getting used to it.
Please share it with Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu. Very grateful for your time. I wish we had another session, a time for another session. I mean, there's so much question coming up. There's very relevant and important questions, including some things in terms of what framework, etc. So on that note, I thank Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu for giving us a perspective on Brahminical education, what's important, because it sets us up for our next session tomorrow morning. We are now naturally moving into the next part of this convention or symposium, where tomorrow's session, and practically the whole day, is going to be dedicated on Shastric education. Okay, so I request all the participants here, please come back with full enthusiasm, bring your friends, because tomorrow we are going to begin the session and we'll have the first speaker, His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhu, and we're going to spend a good 2 hours and probably this next session, also the following session, on sharing some very, very important aspects of Shastric education. And I'll now use the word within the institution, but the reason I requested Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu is that the ministries would really like more and more devotees within the institutional framework and even outside who are Brahminically qualified to actually start giving their time and energy in studying and teaching scriptures, Srila Prabhupada's books in particular. So, thank you, Vidvan Gauranga Prabhu. Hare Krishna. My pranams to you.